Hello and welcome to the Devlin Bishop Show. And we've got Corda here as always. And who would have known when we thought about doing this? We thought it might be a one-off, but this is our fourth episode now. And there are people watching them. And I'm really happy about that because they're a lot of fun to do.
It is.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm really great. Just getting ready for Christmas. I always put a day when we start Christmas where I put music in my MP3 when I start watching Christmas movies, although I have watched a couple, and just I start celebrating. And this actually falls on this day. So this is my day. So we have the tree up. We just got to put lights and ornaments on it. And yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about Christmas. We're going to talk about Christmas movies and possibly specials as well in there, but mostly movies. And hopefully if you're watching and trying to figure out what you're going to watch that, may or may not be on the Hallmark Channel, since they produce 400 movies a year. And we're also going to talk about some stuff that hit in the news recently, but we will talk about that soon. What we need to talk about first is that we are not alone. Corda's happy. The big smile means that somebody else is here. We have a guest today, and he is a regular on our podcast. He got to interview me just recently, and we decided, if he can Zoom, we're bringing him on because I love talking movies with him and anything else, actually. He's just a really great guy, and let's wait no longer because we need to see him. Luther Griggs is here, and we bring him up right now. We don't have glitches.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, Luther. How are you today?
I'm pretty good.
That's good. Are you excited about talking movies?
I'm always excited to talk about movies.
Nice. I basically just told our viewing audience that we will be talking a lot about Christmas movies to give people ideas and maybe a nice way to get them off the Hallmark Channel. No offense to them. They're not my personal favorite, and power to them that they make like 400 new original Christmas movies a year, but I kind of still like something with substance and not the same plot over and over again. But are you a fan of the Hallmark Christmas movies?
I don't think I've ever seen a single one, so I wouldn't know.
We will go with no on that one until he actually sees it. The funny thing is, a little story before we get into our first topic is Mike's dad, he's like old school, like he's in his 70s, 80s. I think he's 80s. And he likes, Turner Classic movies. He likes all the older movies, But since he moved in with my sister-in-law and his family, he's apparently become addicted to the Hallmark Channel and all those movies. And I was actually a little shocked because he is I can't talk movies with him because he says controversial things that just make me want to go in the other room and go, ah!
Do we even have the Hallmark Channel in Canada?
I think they play on the Women's Network.
Oh, okay.
Network.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm dating myself because I don't even think it's called the Women's Network anymore. I think it's just called W. Yeah, somebody buys it because I know there's people on my Facebook that are always raving about them. So I've only seen a couple through going to my old barber. He used to put them on, and I just didn't know. It's good. You know what? They employ a lot of people. That's my positive thing about the Hallmark movies. They employ a lot of people, a lot of actors and actresses that may not get work. So there's that. So, anything that causes work.
For sure.
The staircase actually is in a couple of them, apparently.
Oh,
That's cool.
And apparently it's really funny to see too, because I don't know the names of them, but I really would like to see it. But apparently there's one shot where they literally, you can tell it's the staircase, and then they go into the kitchen, and then there's this big lavish kitchen, and anybody who knows the Staircase Theater in Hamilton, no longer with us, but it's coming back, have to talk about that in a future episode, is that it's got a tiny kitchen, so obviously they edited the kitchen to the staircase because they have this really small one, and you couldn't make a movie there. But a friend of mine that I used to work with, he used to run the staircase, and he actually got a bit part in it. And what I always loved about it, it's one of my favorite Christmas stories, is it was about a homeless shelter. And my friend had a scraggly beard and long hair. And he actually came to the set and they said, we're going to make you a homeless person. And he was so thrilled to be a homeless person. But what was funny is he had to actually go to hair and makeup and give him a little bit of hair trim because he looked too homeless for Hallmark. They actually had a standard that, well, we don't want you to look too homeless. So they actually gave him a little bit of a trim and stuff because Hallmark thought he looked too homeless. So, okay, well, I'm anxious to get to Christmas, so let's talk about our first topic.
Can I say one thing really quick?
Absolutely.
So I just want a disclaimer, like I'm staying at my dad's house in Owen Sound right now, so this isn't my bedroom. This is my little sister's room. just so everybody knows. And I'm just like, sitting on her bedroom floor. This isn't my personal decoration. My name isn't Molly, so just a disclaimer for everyone out there. And if you hear
You're killing the mystery. Everybody thought you had an alter ego that.
Yeah, maybe. I'm squatting in some other family's home. But so if you hear any kids running around or dogs barking, that's also just going on in the house. That's what happens here sometimes.
All right, good disclaimer. Luther doesn't want to think he has this secret life of, he's very young, but he has multiple children and animals. And he goes by the name Molly sometimes. But,
why not?
That's cool. So anyhow, I want to talk about this because this really is big news. And Luther and I and Corda are big movie fans. And, you can be a movie fan many different ways. So it's very interesting. And the reason I wanted to talk to you about this, Luther, is because you and I have talked about streaming. Me being older and you being a younger guy, I thought it's a great way to get perspective on it. So what happened is Wonder Woman 1984 was supposed to come out in May this year. But of course, something called a pandemic happened and movie theaters got closed. So Wonder Woman moved to July because we were very hopeful back then that we'd be all done this by then. Then it moved to October and then they moved it to Christmas. Now everybody's just been waiting around for it to be moved to next summer. A lot of big blockbusters like Top Gun and the Fast and the Furious movie, they've all moved a full year. And what happened is everybody's expecting Wonder Woman to move, but last week they actually announced that Wonder Woman was going to come to theaters on Christmas Day like they originally planned. Well, the fourth time they originally planned. But what happened is, first of all, the pandemic is on the rise everywhere. Just here in Ontario this week, we lost movie theaters again. They have not opened in New York, which is New York and LA are two of the biggest places that movie theaters. They haven't had movie theaters since March. So movies like Tenet and Unhinged and War with Grandpa that have been coming out have made some money, but not the box office that they would have. Now, internationally, a lot of places are closing too. Right now, I think China and Japan are really solid, like they're still have movie theaters. But Europe is starting to close down again. Britain's closing down movie theaters. But the big news is not only is Wonder Woman keeping this final release date, but it was announced that if you buy HBO Max or subscribe to it, you are actually going to see it for free on the same day. Now, if you recall, movies like Mulan opened, but you had to pay like $30, even if you had Disney Plus. So that's video on demand. But they're giving Wonder Woman free for 1 month, and then it's leaving the thing, and it's going to still play in theaters. That is even if there's going to be that many theaters playing Wonder Woman. Some people think this is groundbreaking because, and this isn't the first time. Disney Plus is going to be showing the new Pixar movie for free on Christmas Day as well, Soul. But the problem is that Wonder Woman is being seen as a scapegoat because this is not a cheap movie. And so not only could this alter the fact that we won't get these big blockbusters anymore, because Tenet only grossed about $350 million. Now, any little movie would love to get that much money, but Tenet cost close to 200 million to make, and it needs about double that to even start making money back. Now, Chris Nolan was just, we want to get people into theaters again, and some people criticized him. Other people just said, well, we love his passion. He wasn't forced, like nobody was forced at gunpoint to go. But anyhow, but this is considered a game changer, because if this is a major success and they get the subscribers they want, this could be the new thing, which means movie theaters could start folding. We've already seen some big movie theaters coming to an end. Britain just closed one of their main thing, and they don't think they will reopen. And their big movie thing is the second biggest in America. Canada only has a couple, and they don't know if they can sustain. So it's great that they're giving Wonder Woman to theaters. As I said, we don't even know if ours will be open. But putting it into streaming, is Wonder Woman 1984 going to be the scapegoat now? Kind of like, let's try it. I could see them trying it with smaller movies, but a big tentpole movie like James Bond, they thought about doing this and tried to sell it to the highest bidder, but they couldn't get the numbers that James Bond needs to make the money. So I'm going to throw it to you, Luther. What's your first reaction when you hear, like, there's some positive and some negative in either way, but how do you see it mostly for you?
I don't know. Like, I don't know if I pay attention to this kind of stuff enough to like really understand the real impact. But in my head, I'm kind of like, this might just be a pandemic thing. Like, I don't know. I just couldn't, like, I don't know how movie theaters are doing, and or like big ones anyway. So like, I don't know if like Cineplex or Landmark are gonna keep going, but I don't know. I don't think all theaters will ever completely close, and I don't know if just because of Wonder Woman it will. But I don't really completely know, because I don't know, because it's different for everyone, right? Like, everyone has different movies they want to see in theaters. Like, I'm not personally a big like DC fan, or even that big of a superhero movie fan, and like the big, like, I don't see every single one or anything like that, but like I would have liked to see Tenet in theaters, and now I never will because I didn't want to go to see it in the movie theater. So I guess for the pandemic, obviously it's a lot better, because it has been kind of a bummer not being able to see a lot of the newer films that are coming out. And
yeah,
so
well, even like, oh, sorry, go on.
No, that's generally what I had to say.
Yeah, well, like right now, it's like what my positive, like, I have been to the theater since they reopened, but I've only been to one little independent theater, the Playhouse, only because I'm trying desperately to keep it alive as best I can.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I understand when they have to close things, but I don't get the understanding why in this latest closure, movie theaters were pretty much the first thing that closed. When I think watching a movie with a mask is easier than going to a restaurant with a mask. And you can still go to a restaurant and sit across from somebody, where movies were all pointed one way. It's not like you're sitting one way to the opposite. So I thought it was kind of, and there has been no reports of any cases coming because of movie theaters. I've read several articles, and there has been a lot with gyms and with restaurants, and they are still able to stay open to smaller capacities. But just the big thing here is that big tentpole movies are going to probably be made more cheaper, because right now Hollywood, if you're very interested in this, there's a lot of stories out there about how Hollywood is hurting because of this. Even big things like Disney are trying to find ways. Right now, they're putting everything into streaming. But I still don't understand how you make money from streaming, because once you get a lot of subscribers, it's not like you're going to get, like, you got to constantly get more, right?
Yeah.
So when you hear like they're paying all these money to people to make movies for Netflix or Disney Plus, it kind of makes you wonder, how do they make the money? Like, for the people that are making the movies, because Netflix can pay out the money, but they still have to make the profit, and they don't release the numbers a lot of the time, so we don't know if it's making as much money. But right now, streaming's probably been a godsend to a lot of people. It's funny because I don't watch a lot of streaming stuff. I don't have any of the sites. I know you have Disney Plus, don't you?
I don't have Disney Plus anymore, but I have Crave, I've got Netflix, I've got Amazon Prime, I've got the Criterion channel, and then there's like free ones too, like the NFB has a streaming service, and
That's cool.
CBC has one, and those ones are free. Like anyone can go on there and watch stuff for free. So I do spend a lot of time streaming movies for sure.
Yeah, I think the only one I have is Roku. You have Disney Plus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know I've been over there a couple times to watch like The Mandalorian or something like that, but there's nothing that's won me over yet to say. I'm old school still. I do believe we're going to see movie theaters starting to fade out. And it's sad because a couple of years ago, I've just prepared myself for media to disappear. Like, we're close to a couple of years for losing DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff. I'm hoping maybe this pandemic will help it, because you were saying that you would have loved to see Tenet on the big screen, and it will be streaming eventually somewhere, but they have announced that Tenet is coming out on DVD and Blu-ray and stuff, so at least people have the choice to pick it up if they want to see it. And a lot of people do have big screen TVs now and home stereo systems, but I'm still old school. I still like going to theaters and that feel of it, and I know they have to do what they got to do, but my big fear for Hollywood is we're going to lose these big blockbusters, or worse, we're going to get them made on the cheap. And
it's funny because, like, you say that, but it's like I'm thinking in my head, like, it might actually be cool, like, if superhero movies don't have these like limitless budgets and they can make a movie for like $250 million and stuff like that, like the idea of like thinking about how they might have to condense things, and like how do we make a cool superhero movie without hundreds of millions of dollars, like if you think of like Alien or Jaws, like they had to compromise because their effects might not be that good, so they're like thinking of creative ways to make a movie more extra impactful with maybe a little bit more cinematic devices rather than like big effects and CGI and stuff like that. So it might actually, in my opinion, probably be pretty cool to think about, like, okay, if they want to make an X-Men movie but can only spend like less than $100 million on it, like that might actually be pretty cool in my opinion. And I think it's also cool too, because if these movies are going to be lower scale, maybe it'll make people more interested in lower scale movies and make people want to watch these more like low budget, more, I don't know, normal films. Like, when was the last time you just saw a drama film in the theaters, that was just like a family drama or a crime drama or something like that? You don't really see those kinds of movies anymore. So it might be like, I've been kind of waiting for a shift where people maybe get a little bit more excited about like a movie about people who are just like going through trouble or having a good time and stuff like that. So I think it potentially could be a good thing. And in terms of media, like obviously there may be an issue with like every movie getting released on DVD and Blu-ray, but I also heard that because Disney is soon going to be phasing out physical media, but
yeah, they want it gone. They want movie theaters gone too.
But they're still going to like potentially license their films to like boutique Blu-ray and DVD companies like Criterion or Arrow or whomever, which I think is really cool, because I think if Criterion had the chance to tackle a big movie and like they're going to make a cool documentary that's not going to be all bubbly and fluffy, and they want to get into the nitty-gritty of like what makes a film what it is. And I think that's potential for, I don't know, people who are fanatics to be able to appreciate these things even more than they have before. But that's just like a certain perspective, and I honestly have no idea what's going to happen in the future. So,
and that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I know you are very positive on that, and I try to be positive on that, but I also am the old guy, and I have to be a realist too. My things to that are, I think I've talked to you about this before. you're going to also be very limited to what you get, because we're going to get to a place where they can control everything you see. So there's going to be movies that you're going to have to really search out for, because if they don't want them on their site, they don't have to. It's like Disney. They're hit and miss. They got the whole Fox library. They're slowly trying to open it up on their site, but some of their movies just doesn't fit the Disney, like, this isn't family, you know. So movies like Alien and stuff, they got to get creative, like where do they put it and stuff. And but my other fear though too is and I like your idea, getting creative for a big, one of my favorite movies was Shazam, which was a big action film, but it wasn't as big as some of the other ones and I thought it was an incredible movie because it was based on human interaction and stuff, and that is exciting. My big problem though is we start getting hero movies that look like Sharknado, and like the effects are really bad, and at the end of the day, it's sad to say, but movies like Sharknado are what gets the ratings, and I'm afraid that we're also going to lose the middle ground movies. We might still get the small independents, which is always a positive if people can get into that, because there's so many great movies, you and I have talked about it, that just doesn't get the love it deserves, you know, like a movie like Sing Street or so. These are movies that should be huge.
Yes.
And you do see that. There are times, if you look in the Netflix top 10, there's movies that people didn't go to see in theaters that suddenly they're really cheap on there and you can get them.
Yeah.
And it actually knocks some movies into the top 10. So these movies like, oh, remember that movie? Recently I saw a movie I loved that didn't do great, was Real Steel with Hugh Jackman. And at the theater, I loved it. And I said, why isn't this not a great family film? And it recently hit the top 10 because they put it cheap on Netflix. And people started watching this movie again. So I love that aspect of it. And I do hope, and I don't need to see big blockbusters all the time, but I'd hate to see that, because you know me, I like the variety of indie, cults, families, whatever. And I don't want to lose any of it. And I have a feeling we might, because if we don't get the ratings on those indie films. And what I like is when I go to a little theater like the Playhouse and I see this movie that I just happened to see a trailer for the last time I was at the Playhouse, I'm excited because of the fact that when I go in and I see all these other people that are coming to see a movie I didn't even know about. And I hope that just doesn't get lost on streaming. But well, we're going to talk about some movies now, but Christmas movies. Are you in the Christmas spirit yet, or is it a little too early for you?
I'd definitely say I was. Before I came to my dad's, I was staying at my partner's place, and we wanted to watch a bunch of Christmas movies before I left, but I had to come here on a little bit more short notice, so we didn't really get the opportunity to. We watched I think The Nightmare Before Christmas, which I count as a Christmas movie, not a Halloween movie. So we watched that, but we didn't really get to go through much more of what we wanted to. But since you asked me to be on the show, I've watched 2 or I guess maybe technically 3 since you asked me, because I'm like, okay, I need to polish up. I need to see a couple more, fill my repertoire a little bit more so I can have some more movies to talk about. So I'm definitely getting there now, and I'm like, okay, I'm into it. I want to watch more and more.
Yeah, this is, I've just got into it. I've seen a couple Christmas movies. I haven't. I've seen a lot of Christmas movies, and we're going to talk about them all. We're going to start with a little bit of a template. I gave Corda and Luther a list of movies, and they did their totaling up, and we're going to talk about each one on our list, and then we're going to kind of open it up and talk about maybe some movies you haven't heard. So you're definitely going to hear about some movies that you have heard about, but it's Christmas and we want to inspire people to see movies, whether it's a classic you watch every year or if it's like, hey, that sounds actually pretty good. I hope we inspire you in some way. Even if we say this is a horrible movie and it inspires you to go see it, I'm still proud of that. You know, if I talked about it and if my talking about how I didn't enjoy it turns you on, that's cool too. So let's get to it. I got my cheat sheet here. Does everybody got theirs?
Yeah.
Let's hit with the big one first. What is your favorite Christmas movie? And I'll let you have 2 if you really want to, because there's just so many good ones. But if you had to pick a favorite, Luther, why don't you start us off?
So I made my favorite one. Sorry, I'm gonna pull it up. I made my favorite one Elf.
Okay.
Directed by Jon Favreau and Will Ferrell. Like, obviously, everyone, I assume you two have seen this movie.
I have seen Elf. I actually came late to the game seeing
Yeah.
Elf. I saw it about 5 years ago.
I think I probably saw it, like, not in theaters, but when it came out on video afterwards, which I think was like, what, 2003? Yeah. And I remember being in, probably, I think I was in grade 3, and my elementary school at the time, they would have family movie nights, and they would put mats all over the floor in the gymnasium, and then they had a stage because it was also like our auditorium, and they put, like, I don't know even know if we had a projector at the time. Like, I don't think that those were really like available, so they had 2 TVs that they would put on the stage, and then, like, you know, you pay like $5 for a family, you know, because schools are underfunded and they have to get people to give them money to go watch a movie. Yeah, and I remember my whole family, we went in, and I remember having just like a really good time, and like I don't even know if I really liked it that much initially, but I think just over the years, it's one that, like, my dad's side of the family and my mom's side of the family, like, we both watch it every year. Like, I probably watch this movie at least once, but you probably twice or 3 times a year. And like, even though I kind of like categorize it in like one of those Christmas movies that like everyone likes, like, it's like, you know, Christmas Vacation or Christmas Story, like, it's so like everyone loves this movie, and I think that that's great. But it's like, I think recently I've come to like really, really, really love it. And like, I think last Christmas or the Christmas before, like, I wept watching it. Like, I was crying, and I guess just like things affect you differently at different points in your life. But there's just like, yeah, a few scenes in that movie where I'm like, oh, okay, this is really starting to hit me. Like, this used just to be a movie that I've been watching since I was a kid, but now I'm like thinking about it and relating to it, and like, it's just hilarious too. Like, there's so many quotable lines. All the performances are amazing. Yeah, just overall a great movie, I feel.
Before I talk about Elf, we'll talk, or both of us, a little bit about Elf. I think I'm going to go deep here and say that the secret of a good Christmas movie, I think, is repeat watching. I think you
Always
hit it right on the hill. Because keep in mind, all the great favorite Christmas movies that we, or not us, but everybody watches, are ones that that were flops when they first came out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Wonderful Life, Miracle on 34th Street, the original, flop, Christmas Story, Christmas Vacation. All these movies were flops, and now if you go on the street and ask people, these are 4 movies that would be considered great masterpieces.
Yeah.
And when they first came out, nobody noticed them. And then they just repeat viewing on TV, and people came to love it. I saw Elf just recently. When it came out in theaters, the trailer didn't win me over, and I didn't go see it. And I did finally see it. I picked it up really cheaply, I think at Walmart or something. And I get to the point at Christmas where I always want to at least try one new Christmas movie or something. And so I said, well, haven't watched Elf. And I was actually pleasantly surprised. I thought it was actually very sweet. It has a huge heart. It's very funny. I'll even give a shout out to the music.
Actually.
Not only just the songs in it, but the orchestration. I actually, in my Christmas music mix, I actually have some of the Elf soundtrack to it. And because
Cool.
I just think it's wonderful, especially the scenes in the sled. I just remember when I first watched it, I just thought the music just was so beautiful with it. And yeah, and it's just really well. Will Ferrell's perfect in the part, and I think it's just well cast and everything.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? Did I show you Elf, or did you see it?
No, I just saw Elf a couple of years ago, I think, but I did really love it. I need to see it again, but it was great.
Well, there you go. Well, Elf could be on our list of.
And it's an early Jon Favreau film too, like before Iron Man and Chef and Jungle Book. Like, I think it could have been his first. I don't know, actually.
I don't know, but it's early. It's definitely one of his first. He's really proving himself as a director. and we can forgive him for missteps. I believe he did Cowboys versus Aliens. So he's made enough good movies, from like his Avengers movies or like his for the Marvel movies to the Jungle Book. His live action Jungle Book was really impressive. And then I forget that he did stuff like Elf and stuff like that. So and technically, if you want to really pat him on the back, he did the first Iron Man. If that would have sucked, there would not be a universe. So he technically should get credit for that. Okay, so Elf, there's one we can put on our list. Maybe I'll have to re-see it. I can't remember when I last saw it. But Heather, your listing of your favorite Christmas movie.
The Muppet Christmas Carol.
The one with Michael Caine and the Muppets?
Yes.
Redoing the Charles Dickens classic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell us why you like it so much. You
Um,
forced me to watch this. I finally watched it because of you, and I'll give.
Oh,
my
you had never
review.
seen it?
I saw it a couple years ago because her and her family just raved about it. But let her tell her love for it.
I don't know
Building
what
my
it is, but
suspense.
I just, it's got some humor in it and everything, but I actually really like the performance of Michael Caine in it. I think he makes a great Scrooge, and I like the songs in it and everything. It's good that the Muppets are in it, but they're actually not the biggest draw of it for me, which is unusual for me. So
I have to say that I have seen a couple of the. Now I remember this coming out to theaters. This wasn't a right to DVD. I remember when it came out to theaters, and I'm a huge Muppets fan, but for some reason I didn't go to it. And again, I agree with you. It's actually a really good adaptation. I guess we could have actually done favorite Christmas Carol version because there's so many versions.
Yes.
Like from Mickey Mouse to the Muppets to like the Fonz even has one that was done on TV. Like so many people. They have a female version with Susan Lucci.
okay.
So, but you know what? This is a really good adaptation. It's not my favorite, obviously, but I give you credit. The strongest part in this is Michael Caine's performance.
Definitely.
And he's working with the Muppets, but if you work with the Muppets and you don't, like, he doesn't mail it in. He does not mail it in. You need to work with them Muppets, and they do.
Yeah.
I think my problem is that I'm a Miss Piggy fan, and there's not enough of her in this movie.
There's not much of her in it.
No, there's not a lot of women in Christmas Carol except background characters and stuff, and she's in there. But the music is good. Paul Williams, who I rave about all the time, I believe
that was
he
also
wrote some of the stuff. So I could be wrong, but
Oh, I love the
he
music.
does work with the Muppets a lot. Have you seen a Muppet Christmas Carol?
Yeah, I definitely saw it when I was a kid, but I didn't really have much of a memory of it. But last Christmas time, my partner Mariel and I were just going through like a really big Muppet phase. Like I think we watched like most of the like theater released Muppet movies during like this time, like November, December. And so we went and we watched a lot of the Christmas specials. Like we watched the Family Christmas one too, which I think is when they go to Fozzie's mom's house, which I thought was really, really good.
That's an awesome one. I was just gonna toot that horn because you can find that on YouTube too.
Yeah, I watched it on YouTube. But
great. So
it's great. I just like
watch this. Go watch that.
I think like anything before maybe like 95 Muppets is great. Like and like I like the Jason Segel Muppets too, but like I you can't knock the Muppets. Like everything the Muppets do is usually good if it's not like from the year like 2010 on, in my opinion, other than the Jason Segel one.
Yeah, that was actually really good too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, lots of Muppet love here. But yeah, the Muppet Family Christmas is really good, and definitely check that out. And the Christmas Carol, I think it is one of the best. If I had to rank the early Muppet movies, I think it would be better than stuff like Great Muppet Caper and Take Manhattan. Not the first one. I have too much love for the Muppet movie.
That's fair. Yeah.
I still remember it in theaters because I'm old. My favorite Christmas movie, I wish I could be like in your face and have something different, but I'm going to go for one that everybody would probably say, and that's A Christmas Story. It's a battle royale between Christmas Story and Christmas Vacation. I decided Christmas Story is more sentimental. even though I probably can relate more to my family with Christmas Vacation. But I like Christmas Story, and I'm starting to find people that actually don't like it. And I respect that, even though they're wrong. No, I'm kidding. I have a woman who calls it the worst movie ever made.
Wow.
I like that there's a Canadian connection to it. Bob Clark, who has given us Christmas Story and Black Christmas. Like, talk about two awesome Christmas movies that are different. But I like Christmas Story just because of the fact that it's so sentimental. It's funny, but it's not in your face funny. It's not trying to, drop your pants, and it's not crude funny. It's stuff that there's a story in there that everybody can relate to. The feelings are just absolutely wonderful, and I just think it's well written. I think it's based on like Gene Shepherd, his stories, and the way they put it all together. I just think it's so well crafted, a movie. And when you put it on, it's 90 minutes and it goes by so quick. Like, I couldn't believe how quick it goes. But I get the warm fuzzies in it. And as much as I do really enjoy Christmas Vacation, I can't say I get the warm fuzzies. And I like to have the warm fuzzies at Christmas. Your thoughts? Anyone who wants to talk about Christmas Story?
Well, this is a film that, like, obviously it's like growing up, it's on TV around Christmas constantly. Like TBS used to have the 24-hour run of Christmas Story.
That's pretty
and like
much what made Christmas Story popular again.
Yeah.
Because every time you could watch it.
I remember like the first time I had watched it, and I think I was probably really young, like 5 or 6, because I remember so like broadly, like, or really well, that scene where he drops the screws and says fudge, except I didn't actually say fudge. And I remember seeing that as a kid because, like, when I was a kid and in elementary school, like, my friends and we cussed like so much, and I was always like so afraid of my parents finding out, and they later did, and I paid for it as well. But like I remember seeing that and be like, oh no, that could be me. Like, I could like slip up and say something really bad in front of my parents.
And that's a beautiful thing that is awesome. That scene, nowadays they might actually just drop the F word, but I love that they just said fudge, but they, made it innocent.
Mm-hmm.
Said, unfortunately, I didn't say that. And I didn't get soap too often, but I did get it once.
I got it. I got soap and Tabasco sauce as a kid.
So you like it, obviously.
Yeah. Well, like it's funny because what I was kind of getting around to say is that because it's so ubiquitous, I think it kind of just like fell into the back of my head. But I rewatched it. Like, I really just like sat down and paid attention to it. I think Christmas Eve, like 2 years ago, and I'm like, wow, like this is actually like incredible. And I will say that I think it's a perfect movie, except for the closing scene where they go to the Chinese restaurant. Like, I don't think that's aged really well. Like, I was like, right at the end, I'm like, wow, that was perfect. It's aged so well. It wasn't offensive. And then they go to the Chinese restaurant. I'm like, yikes. Like, oh, this is a little bit making my skin crawl a bit. But.
Well, I think to myself, it was made in the 80s, and it's about the 50s, 40s, 50s, something like that. So I try to think,
guess the 50s.
Yeah, that's kind of what they were going for. But yeah. Now, Heather, what are your thoughts before I give one quick shout out and we go to our next topic?
I like it. It's a good movie. I know I didn't like it the first time I saw it, but that was ages and ages ago. Once I started watching it with you, I kind of get the nostalgia feel of it better. And
there are a lot of movies like that when you watch it and you don't like it first, and then it might just be the mood you're in, or it just didn't touch you the right way. But I will give one more shout out before we move on to our next topic, and I know you'll love this shout out. We actually last week watched the Christmas Story live Broadway musical version, and I was pleasantly surprised at how much I liked it. And Luther, they actually correct that thing you mentioned.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, in fact, they make a joke about it, which I love. A little bit of a spoiler, if you do get a chance to watch it, it is on YouTube, and I highly recommend it.
it's fantastic.
And you actually said you thought it was better than the original, Heather.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
But I love musicals, so.
The music is so wonderful, and it catches the feeling. But there's a part where they go to the Chinese restaurant, and they go, are you ready to hear? Would you like to hear a song? And I'm about ready, like you, cringing. And they go into this beautiful, like, barbershop quartet. And the father just kind of says, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that." And it's kind of a fun little nod to the original movie. And I'm surprised how much of the movie they actually keep in the musical. So if you get a chance, Luther, check it out.
Yeah, I definitely love to check it out.
I know you're not a big musical fan, right?
You never know. You like sometimes I love them, sometimes I really don't love them. So
this is one I stumbled on. Give it a chance, and if you don't, well, we'll write it off as your musical thing. But I am going to promote that too. But definitely the original movie. And as I said, my second is Christmas Vacation. We won't talk about that in case it comes up in someone else's list.
Okay.
Let me check my cheat sheet as we move on to our next. Okay, I've got. I know it's a bad movie, but I still love it. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go to Corda this time. You're going to start us off. I have to look at what my one is so I know what to talk about. So what is your, I know it's bad, but I have to watch it.
The only one that came to mind was Santa Claus versus the Martians.
Oh, yes.
I've never heard of this. I'm excited.
Oh, this is mine too. Santa Conquers the Martians. We'll get the right title. It is available on YouTube because it's public domain.
Yep.
Please tell me it's your movie pick first, so I will rave about it.
No, you go right ahead. It's horrible and brilliant.
You know, there's so many movies, Hollywood remakes. Like when I look back at all the movies from my youth that are now remade, why has this not been? Because this isn't a good movie. And I love it for that. And I've seen this in theaters, okay? When I was a kid, my dad took me to the Center Mall Theater and we saw Santa Conquers the Martians, and I loved it. Then when I saw it as older, I couldn't believe how awful this movie is. But I watched this probably every year. And I've watched it with Elvira. I have watched it with Mystery Science Theater 3000. And I get such joy from this movie. And I love that somebody recently said, yeah, that's that movie where nothing really happens. Even though it's got this awesome name like Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. But it's so stupidly twisted. Oh, Luther, you got to watch this.
When is it from?
It came out in the 60s.
Okay.
And I saw it in the 70s when they kept having these bargain matinees, and my dad would take me, and he'd take me to see anything. And literally this qualifies as anything. He must have been. Well, he probably slept. He slept a lot through some of the movies he didn't enjoy. So I probably didn't even notice he was, because I couldn't see him loving this movie. But
I've actually been watching a lot of alien movies lately, so that would kind of like tie into like my current interests. So
it's G-rated. Don't expect much. Maybe I always said my dream was to remake this, and I have a brilliant template for it. I really hope they do it sometimes. And we weren't going to announce this, but I am going to announce this. We are going to be showing it on Mondo Nostalgia. Count Devula is actually going to be showing it this year.
Maybe that's how I'll watch it.
There you go. Me popping in every once in a while saying how bad this movie is. But it is public domain, so it is available. I own probably about 3 copies of it because it keeps showing up in like bad Christmas movies or something. And I do not own it on Blu-ray yet. That's the only thing I have.
Right.
But I am so excited that I'm going to be Count Devula for it too. So that's one on Luther's list right there. Santa Conquers the... Okay, what is your... I know it's a bad movie, but I love it, Luther. I can't wait.
Okay, so mine is... 8 Crazy Nights, which is Adam Sandler animated film. I don't know if
I have not seen it.
Oh no. Okay.
I am well aware of Adam Sandler's Hanukkah song, and I enjoy playing that in my music list, but I have never gotten around to seeing this.
The song plays over the credits of the film. There's the lyric in the song, the 8 Crazy Nights. But yeah, it's not a good movie. I actually made my partner and her roommate watch it last year, and I felt kind of bad because like I hadn't seen it in a while, and like I still do love it and I think it's really great, but like sometimes you watch a movie like that with other people and you're like, I don't want them to think that like I'm like, I don't know, I love it. But anyways, like I grew up watching Adam Sandler movies. Like I still love most Adam Sandler movies, not so much the newer ones, except Hoobie Halloween was really good. Everyone should watch that. I love that. But yeah, this is like, it's gross, it's raunchy, there's lots of poop jokes. But there's definitely elements of it that like are kind of like not great. Like there's lots of like fat phobia and like racist stuff in it that makes me really sad and like not stoked on, but like I love the animation. It's also a musical. I think the songs in it are really fun. And this is just like, I remember, I think I got it on DVD for a stepbrother of mine when I was a kid, and we watched it just so much. And I think the songs in it and everything like just make me feel like it's a nostalgia thing for sure. But I really enjoy watching it, and like having rewatched it last year, I still really love it and still stand by it, even though like there's some not such great humor in it. But yeah, and it's about like Adam Sandler plays just this like drunk loser named Davey, I believe, and he gets arrested, and he he has to do community service, and so he's like becomes the coach for like this kids basketball team for at a community center, and his trailer burns down, and he lives with the other guy who's like the assistant coach or the referee or something like that, also voiced by Adam Sandler. I think Adam Sandler does the voices of at least 3 characters in this film. And it's just like really weird humor, and there's a dumb romance story in it where his wife actually plays his love interest. There are so many weird casting in here. Like, what's his name? There's this guy named Dennis Duggan who has directed most of Adam Sandler's films, and like his wife is a voice in it. His son is a voice in it. Chris Farley's brothers have voices in it. I think Dylan and Cole Sprouse, who played in his kid in Big Daddy, have voices in it. And I don't think it's any like secret that Adam Sandler just gets all of his friends to like be in his movies, and he pays them all out. Like, and I think that's pretty admirable. Like, I just think Adam Sandler's a cool dude and is like, here, I'm making a movie. Let's just put all my friends in it and we'll just hang out and have a good time.
One of the things I love about Adam Sandler, and I agree with you, I like a lot of his early movies. He lost me around the Zohan, the hairdressing.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, but I love that he has like a respect for his friends, and he one of the stories I heard, I think it was Kevin James told it, but after Grown Ups came out, the box office was bigger than they thought. And on the Monday that movie came out, so after the weekend it made money, apparently all the lead actors in that movie got a brand new car in their driveways, and it was Adam Sandler thanking them because he's saying, I didn't make this movie on my own. This is yours too. And he couldn't believe the generosity. And he always like remembers his friends, like Rob Schneider. Other people won't cast him, but Adam will always, call his friends up. And I love that. I love he's bringing wives and people he worked with when they were kids.
His wife is in like almost every movie he's done since like Little Nicky, I think, or something like that. Nice. But I just think he gets a lot of bad flack, and you can say, like, obviously he's made so many bad movies between like 2009 and now, but there are some times where he like, I think really hits the nail on the head, and I don't want to get too much into an Adam Sandler rant, but I just think like he did a Netflix comedy special recently that's really good, and I wasn't the biggest fan of Uncut Gems, but I do like the Safdie brothers, and I think Adam Sandler did do a really good job in that film, and I think he did a really good job of promoting it and like helping this small film get noticed in a big kind of way. But let's not talk about Adam Sandler too much. Anyways, 8 Crazy Nights is my
and thank you.
My guilty pleasure.
That helps. You mentioned Hanukkah, so we got another holiday in there, so that's good too. So, okay, that was fun. I like talking. We did not see that, so we can't comment. I don't know. I might give it a shot one day. You never know. I'm hit and miss with poop jokes.
There's some good ones in here.
South Park with Mr. Hanky, the Christmas poo. So for me, saying high and mighty, I don't like poo jokes. Well, apparently, if I'm in the mood, I will like it. Okay, I have got best overrated Christmas movie. Well, I guess it's not the best. It's what you believe is an overrated Christmas movie. Now, Christmas. I can't say that word. We said it so much. So Luther asked me what, because there's another topic that's similar, but I told him overrated is a movie you can actually like, but you just think people just blow it out of proportion, even though you think, yeah, it's a good movie. There's other ones that are like, well, I don't like it. So this one is a movie you can like, but you just think that people just are crazy about it. And I think it's my turn to start, and I'm going to talk really quickly about it because people are going to boo me. Mine is, and if you know me, you're not surprised by this, is The Nightmare Before Christmas. Sorry, Luther, I know you're a fan. I actually like a lot of this movie. I just don't love it, and I respect people that do. I love the music. I love the look of it. I love so much about it. But every time I try to watch it and try to get that magical, fuzzy feeling, I just don't feel there's no connection for me in the love story. I just find a lot of it weird that people embrace it as like it's the merchandise for it is still alive. And I love it because I like the look of the film. And I do agree with you. I believe it's more of a Christmas movie than a Halloween movie. But for me, it's a little overrated, but I do not hate people that hate it. I still like it, and I give it a shot every couple of years. All right, Luther, now that you're hating on me, no. What is your movie you think is overrated?
Okay, so I may have misunderstood this question, so I might save my answer for a different one. But honestly, I will just say that I think when it comes to all of the staple Christmas movies, I don't think any of them are overrated. I think all of them are just well rated. And so I don't think I specifically have one. I don't think if I think of any of the Christmas movies that I can think of any of the classics, I can't think that people hype them up too much because I may not love A Christmas Vacation or Home Alone as much as the next person, but I still watch those movies and I'm this deserves it. They're incredible. I think they're so good, but I'm they're just not my favorites. But yeah, I don't think I properly have an answer for this one, unfortunately.
Okay, that's fine.
I tried. I looked at so many lists. I'm
No
are there
problem.
any on here that I
fair.
think that are...
Well, as I said, even though I find that one overrated, I don't begrudge anybody. I don't say, why?
Yeah.
I understand why people get it, but to me, I'm surprised at how big it became when there's so many ones that people don't know about and stuff. Okay, Heather, do you have one?
Yeah, mine was Nightmare Before Christmas too.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
We've never watched it together, I don't think, have we?
No, I've only seen it once, and it was good, but I don't know why everybody loves it so much. But it is good.
Okay. So we'll move on because we have another one that's sort of like that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, it could also be a matter of, like you said, repeat viewings. I've been watching this movie, at least once a year for, my entire life as well. And I do remember, a few years ago, I did watch it, and I'm like, oh, this isn't, how I remember. When you're a kid, it seems very, grandiose, very, over the top. And then you watch it, and I'm like, oh, it's, only an hour long. It's, yeah, there's, definitely holes in it, plot holes for sure, and the romance between Jack and Sally isn't the greatest, but there are some key moments that I like to cling on to, oh, I see it there, or maybe I see it there. And sometimes I think it's more just Sally likes Jack and Jack just is nice. But yeah, I do like it a lot. And it's funny because Mariel and I, like I said, we watched it recently, and she's kind of that wasn't that good, and I'm just kind of yeah, sure, trying to brush off that I think it is really good. But anyways, yeah, let's move on.
I will say that I did get to see it in the theaters, and I am glad I did because visually it was really amazing in the theaters. So I'm dating myself here, but I do remember seeing it.
Also, I do want to say that this movie is directed by Henry Selick, and I don't think he gets enough credit because Tim Burton kind of overshadows him. But Henry Selick is so great. He did James and the Giant Peach and Coraline and A Monkey Bone, which is an underrated movie, I believe. I love Monkey Bone, and it's a live-action movie that he did.
So Tim Burton produced it?
He produced it and like
Yeah,
came
I
up with
always
the
thought he
characters or
directed
whatever.
it. Yeah, I
No,
did not know that.
Henry
Oh,
Selick directed it, and I think Henry Selick is an amazing director, and not enough people talk about him. Yeah, so just another little.
well, that makes sense because if Tim Burton directed it, Johnny Depp's face would have been superimposed on Jack
Yes,
Skellington.
like Corpse Bride.
Okay, here's a fun one, and we'll start with you, Luther. Underrated Christmas movie. This is your chance to
Okay.
give some positivity to a movie that maybe people don't get to
So,
see.
so I have two answers, but I'll say one just really quick and then go on a big rant about the second one. So
Okay.
the first one I wanted to say, and we've already talked about Muppets, and I think the Muppets in general, like they have a lot of Christmas specials, like John Denver and the Family one and stuff like that. But one that I think is really underrated, and I watched for the first time last year, was Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Oh.
And like it isn't an amazing film. Like I think people kind of expect it to be like a big over the top Muppet film, but it feels like I know that it's not, but it feels so much like a CBC Christmas special. Like the animatronics, the puppetry, and the story is so low key, but it's just so warm. Like you watch that movie and you feel like you're in like a wood cabin with a bunch of otters, like drinking like hot apple cider or hot chocolate, and like I think the relationship between the son and the mother is really good. And I watched it with my partner and I think a couple friends, and they were kind of like, that was okay, but I'm like, it is okay, I guess, but like I just think it feels really good. Like it's a really good feeling movie. And I was actually watching a bit of a documentary about Jim Henson last night, but I remember watching the film, and when he's rowing the boat, I'm like, how is that possible? Like, how are they doing that? Like, which is also really fun about Muppet movies, is because they do a lot of like groundbreaking puppetry work. But I watched a bit how they like made motorized puppets for the rowing of the boat and stuff like that. And it's really good. And I just think it's really great. Anyways, on to the next one.
Before you get to that one, we want to sprout in because we have a thing. And I know what you mean with Jim. I remember the first time I saw the Muppet movie and I saw Kermit the Frog on a bicycle.
Exactly, yeah.
What? And I was a kid, so I was just like, what? They got legs, I know your family knows Emmett Otter.
Yeah.
So I'll pass this to you, Corda, and then I'll give you my quick experience, and then we'll get to your other movie.
My experience is going to be pretty lame because I don't actually remember it at all.
Your mom loves this.
I know, and I know I must have seen it, but I don't remember.
If she's watching this, she's going,
oh yeah.
oh, I'm going to have to watch it too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm going to make you watch it. Okay.
I must have
My
seen
quick
it.
experience on this, Luther and Corda. I always used to, your mother would bring it up to me and I'd always be like, oh, I don't know. And I'd actually kind of like almost be like, apparently this is your mom's thing now. I actually watched it and I absolutely adored it from the first moment I saw it. I saw it with Mike and we just thought it was the sweetest thing. I like watching it just for like background characters, and you can see like the pan over the swamp or the river and you just see little puppets moving, and it just it's a beautiful,
it's so beautiful
story.
Like visually really pretty movie. I think
yes, and I agree with you. The brilliance of it is the simplisticness of it. It's not like brain surgery. It's not it's a story that's been told many times before. I think it's the Magi or something similar, where one person gives something to get another person a gift and then they do the same.
Yeah.
But it's a story that works. And so I'm glad you mentioned it because it is sweet and it is absolutely great. I'll let you mention your next movie.
Okay, so this is my like real answer. Like Emmett Otter is kind of like, people should watch that movie. They haven't seen it. But this is a movie that I know people don't like, but I think is actually really good, and I think was dismissed when it came out, and people haven't rewatched it, so they don't know how good it actually is. And my answer for this is Bad Santa. And I think Bad Santa is really good and really underrated. And what I think people don't realize is like Terry Zwigoff directed this, who did Crumb and Ghost World and Our School Confidential, and both Crumb and Ghost World are Criterion released films. Like they're really critically renowned films. And then I think they see like Billy Bob Thornton, like talking about his his penis and like whatever. It's like, ew, gross. I don't want to watch that. But like, I think it's a really good, well directed and well written movie. It's also produced by the Coen brothers, which I think is a lot of people don't know that about it either. But yeah, it's like Billy Bob Thornton and what's his name? Tony Cox plays like the elf in the movie, and he's really good in this movie. Lauren Graham from the Gilmore Girls.
I know she.
Yeah, Lauren
Yes,
Graham,
yes.
who's the mom in Gilmore
Lauren Graham,
Girls.
yeah.
And Bernie Mac and John Ritter are in this one. But like
That's right, they are.
and it's like the thing is like there's a lot of cussing, there's a lot of bad, really offensive jokes in this movie. But like I think for me it's kind of like I've spent my life around a lot of people like that, and it's cool because it's kind of a movie about this like shitty, awful guy. It's a redemption movie, which is like, yeah, whatever, sympathize for a bad dude, but like having him have this kid come into his life and he's just like this awful person, and like he feels no joy in his life, and this kid who is just full of optimism and like unconditionally loves this Santa guy who the kid actually thinks he's Santa. I just think it's really nice, but also like the writing is so good in this movie. Like the jokes are, I think, hilarious. Like I think I probably rewatched this maybe like 5 or 6 years ago because it was on TV, and I was howling. Like I was laughing like probably the hardest I'd laughed in a long time, and I think it's really good, especially the kid character. And kid characters can often be written really poorly. Like they talk like adults and like say stuff you wouldn't expect, and especially in a movie like this you would probably expect that. But this kid is played so well, acted so well, the writing for him is so good, and he just says such weird stuff. And this movie is honestly really weird, like Billy Bob Thornton coming to his house and his grandma's like, I think, really drunk or high or just suffering from dementia, and like living in their house and eating their food, and it's just so weird and dark but like funny at the same time. And I just think people just see it as a raunchy comedy and don't really realize that it kind of has like these weird dark layers to it. And I could just be over talking about it and saying that it's good, but like I think people should reconsider it. And even though there are some stuff in it that are kind of like frowned upon in it, but I think it's kind of a bit more of just like, maybe you should look at bad people in a different light and realize that everyone can connect to everyone if they really want to. And that's just kind of how I see it, but I don't know.
No, it's a great assessment of the movie. I like the movie a lot. I have only seen it once, and I do think I saw the unrated, which is like Batter Santa. But I actually thought it was really good, and I thought it was really well crafted. I do know it does have a cult following. I do know every once in a while I meet people that are like, oh, I love Bad Santa. I like watching it and stuff. I just think the reason it doesn't get the love is because it's not something TBS can show for 24 hours on their channel, or Hallmark's not going to throw it in after like two, business women who fall in love. It's just a hard movie to put out there, like on even a primetime TV, because if you put it on cable, you'd have to edit it and it would lose its charm. And power to you for getting the word penis in our Christmas little talk here. But it's a good movie. It is solid, and I'm gonna actually have to watch it again because I know I really did enjoy it, and I didn't know if I would or not, but it is good, and I think it's one of Billy Bob Thornton's best roles.
For sure.
I think he's a really underrated actor, and he's really good. But I really think he does good. You've never seen this one,
I don't
have
think
you, Cory?
so. It sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't think I've seen it.
It's about.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like a con man that plays Santa, and then like they rob the mall, and they basically move mall to mall. And but then he meets this kid, and he's trying to con this kid, but then realizes that maybe he shouldn't. I think it's really good, but I think the only issue is Lauren Graham's character. Like I really honestly really hate when movies shoehorn in romance when it's like there's no reason that Billy Bob Thornton needs a love interest in this movie at all. Like that's most movies really frustrating.
That's the kid's mother, that's the kid's mother, right?
No, she just works at the mall.
Oh,
okay. Then okay. So because then it wouldn't be as shoehorned, but yeah, I know what you mean. And there's no need for it because there's a lot of different relationships in this.
Exactly,
the kid and him, the elf and him is even that's kind of a weird dynamic and stuff. And I do agree. sometimes romances are not needed in movies.
Mhm.
Well, we'll have to show you that one, Heather. I showed you Office Christmas Party. We enjoyed that the first time, and it wasn't a great film, but it passed the time. So, what's your underrated Christmas movie?
Well, it's probably not really underrated, but a lot of times I talk to people and they don't give it a chance, and that's Polar Express. Because,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I didn't think I'd like it when I first saw it, but it's fantastic. It was really good, and I think the animation throws people off.
I won't talk about it because it's in another topic of mine, but are you familiar with the Polar Express, Luther? Have you seen it?
I saw this in theaters when it came out, and I remember maybe I've seen it like once or twice because I think one of my stepbrothers really liked it. I remember I saw this in theaters and it creeped the hell out of me. Like it made me feel so weird, and I think that's just
why
like
I stayed away from it.
That's why I think that's typical of like, late era Robert Zemeckis films, like with mocap movies. But like, I think last Christmas you and I talked about it, Devlin, and I was like, I think I need to revisit it because I think I kind of cherish that feeling now of like being really weirded out by visuals. And I think I think the idea, I really like those kinds of movies too. Like, what did it happen? Did it not happen? And the idea of like these kids going away to another world that's like, I think in my head, I remember it just being very surreal, and I really love that. I think there's a few other movies, like I could think of like Mirror Mask, which is another really good late era Jim Henson one that kind of like give you that sort of just like what is this? Like you can't really compare it to anything else, which I think is really cool. And I wanted to watch it before we did the show, but I didn't get a chance to, unfortunately. But I will be watching it soon for sure.
It creeped me out too. In fact, it creeped me enough not to go see it in theaters. It's coming up on one of my lists, so I'll talk about it then. Because then I can talk about it if I liked it or not. But most people who know me know that I did like it. In fact, I would say even more so. Okay, my underrated movie is horrible because nobody can probably find this movie. So when the pandemic's over and any of you are watching this and you want to come over to my house to watch it, I own a copy. I found a copy at Zeller's, and sadly before that I taped it off TV and burned a copy on thing. But this is not a movie that's easy to find. It might be on YouTube one day, and I'm going to have to do it, and you're going to hate me for it. It's A Christmas Romance with Olivia Newton-John and Gregory Harrison. I know I've forced Heather to watch this one. She's actually done 2 Christmas movies, and I go back and forth watching one. She did one that I think might be actually on Disney Plus called Mom for Christmas, because she did that for the Disney Channel. But this one was one she did for CBS in the 90s, and it's a beautiful movie that I always joke I've showed it to a couple people, and it's not like spectacular, but it is a very nice, beautiful movie, and I think it's some of Olivia's best acting in it, and I really love this movie. It also has her daughter in it, playing her daughter. Chloe Latanzi plays in it. It's basically, I joke to Mike that this is the movie that started the Hallmark craze.
Yeah.
Because this is a movie that would fit perfectly in those movies, but I think it's still higher quality. It's about a woman who is a widow, and she, I'm going to cry talking about it too, so I can already feel I'm welling. She is her farm that she was a city woman, and she married this country guy, and she is about to lose her farm. And she has 2 daughters, and she gets laid off at work just before Christmas. And the only way they make money is by making these old-fashioned cakes that they sell to the community, but the community has lost their jobs too. So Gregory Harrison plays this banker who has to come up and basically, because she's ignoring all the foreclosing things because this is her husband's farm and where her girls have grown up. And of course, there's a blizzard, he gets stuck up there, and there's romance to be had, but it doesn't happen easy, and it's just a feel-good film. Mom for Christmas is nice, and I love that one, and you get to see Olivia play a mannequin. But I think Olivia's turn as a widower with 2 daughters and this bank guy who comes up to tell her that in the new year she has to get out of the house is just a beautiful film. It just makes me feel wonderful. And if you can find it, I strongly recommend it. But as I said, you know, if the pandemic's over, come on over, I'll show it to you. It's not going to win any awards or anything, but it is a feel-good movie, and it feels like the characters are really like real to me. And there's so many moments that are just like, oh God, really? Can't that even go well for them? And I like shows where it's just like, okay, well, that's got to go well for them. Nope, that's not going to go well for them either. So it's just a feel-good movie. It reminds you about the spirit of Christmas. It's not all just about the romance. It talks about, like, it's the people that are around the tree, not just the gifts you get and stuff. I know you probably have not seen this, Luther. Have I interested you in any way?
Well, I'm always down to watch any movie with you, and even if it's an Olivia Newton-John movie, then obviously I'd love to watch it with you once the pandemic's over. So maybe next Christmas, hopefully.
Yeah, and maybe we'll do a double bill, and I'll show you Mom for Christmas, where she plays a mannequin.
I'm into that.
Yeah, based on a child's book, and that might actually be on Disney Plus. And if not, shame on you, Disney. Heather, I forced you to watch this once or twice, and did you enjoy it?
Yes, and it's funny that you mentioned that you think it's a Hallmark movie, because whenever I think of a Hallmark movie, that's the movie I think of, even though it wasn't a Hallmark movie. But it just has that feel to it, I think. But it was really
does.
good. I would like to see it again.
Yeah, so there we go. We'll have to all watch that. And please look out for it. As I said, I think it came out once on DVD, and I found it, and that's about it. Okay, we're up to Quirky, Unusual Christmas Movie. And Heather, do you have that one?
Yes. Anna
What is yours?
Apocalypse.
Oh, pardon?
Anna and the Apocalypse.
Okay, yeah, you're
you
wanting me to watch this. I'm going to watch this year. Tell us about it.
It's a zombie Christmas musical.
Well, that's sold.
Yeah, there's not much else to say about it without giving things away, but basically a small town gets taken over, like, people starts turning into zombies around Christmas time, and so there's a lot of Christmas in it, some fun Christmas songs, and...
Now, I remember you sending me one of the songs, and I thought that song was brilliant.
Yeah, it's
not a Hollywood ending or something? Yeah, and I don't know if you're familiar with the song, Luther. No. It's basically a bunch of teens talking about realism, about how movies and songs lie to us about how everything's going to be easy. And when I first heard it, I thought, oh, this is going to be miserable. And then I love the song because it talks about just like, you know, well, what if it doesn't turn out good? And what if it isn't going to have a happy ending? And I was amazed. And then you saw the movie. Yes. I think this is a British movie.
It is. The accents took me a little bit to get used to right at the beginning of the movie, but it's really, really good.
Well, I have not seen it, but I am in. I am totally in for this. Have you heard of this or?
I've definitely heard the name, but I don't know anything about it. This is like, other than maybe hearing the name brought up at some point in my life, I've never really known anything about it for sure. And I've definitely, I'm always intrigued and into watching movies.
There's not enough zombie Christmas movies.
I think there's a couple of Christmas songs in it you might end up adding to your list, just because they're very different. So.
And you didn't know it was Christmassy. You just thought it was a zombie movie.
No, because when I first saw the song, I didn't know what it was. But then I looked into it afterwards, and I realized it was a Christmas movie and everything. And I was like, I've got to see this. It sounds insane.
Well, I'm going to give it pluses just because it has the words Christmas, zombie, and musical. There's 3 things that you would never think go together. Yep. So I'm already going to give it a plus on that. So I can't wait to see that. Mine is the Polar Express. I avoided this like the plague. When I saw the trailer in theaters, it scared the crap out of me. I thought I had nightmares from that. And then one day, as I said, every year I like to watch something new. And I think Walmart had it for $5. I put it on, and my life changed. I look directly at the camera when I say that. It still was creepy at the beginning, but as I got into it, I just started falling in love with this movie. I couldn't believe how much I loved it. And then we started going to it. Cineplex here in Canada started showing it, and we actually went to the big screen in 3D, and I really fell in love with this movie even more. I have now said that this is probably it's up there with A Christmas Story and A Christmas Carol. I love the sentiment of this movie about how some people have the Christmas spirit and others don't. I am a person who's in his 50s who I feel like a kid through this time of year. And sometimes I meet people who are like I've met young people who are going through the motions, like, oh yeah, it's just Christmas. And I know so many people that are either on one side or the other. And this movie basically deals with that. Like, yeah, the train is fun and all that, but the heart of the movie is, are you going to be one of those people that Christmas means something to you? Do you still believe in magic? And you know me and magic. And so I call it quirky because it is hard to get through at first. I know so many people that will not watch it because it looks, but you know what? Now I'm not freaked out by it, and it just endears me. And like you said, Luther, I think it's that surreal quality that actually makes the movie special, because they did work it out. Zemeckis, I believe, went on to do the Jim Carrey Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And that's nightmarish in its own, but you can tell the advances they certainly made in this, because I did see that movie and I said, oh, okay, this is all but I like the imperfections, I think, of the Polar Express, even though they did seem to get it better in that Christmas Carol as far as the animation goes. But the heart of this movie, So we've talked about the Polar Express. So what's your quirky Christmas unusual movie, whatever you want to call it?
Okay, this one's tough for me because I have like 3 potential answers, but I'm just going to save some for later. I know we're kind of already starting to go over time, so I'll try to condense it for now. One I did just want to mention, and I feel like I've talked about this one so much, like if you know me, I talk about it a lot. And I don't want to overbear the show too much, but I did just want to bring up Tangerine, because I think Tangerine's a really good movie. Devlin and I watched it together last year.
That's the one you showed me, yeah.
Yeah, and
I liked it a lot. It was different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's not like really a Christmas movie, whatever, but it takes place on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and it's about like a transgender sex worker who's just gotten out of jail and found out that her boyfriend is sleeping with quote unquote a real woman, and so she travels across town trying to find her boyfriend and freak out at him. Basically, that's what the movie is about, but it's about a lot more like that, because the main character Cinderella and her best friend Alexandra are kind of like going through a lot of turmoil within their relationship, but Alexandra also is doing her first like singing performance at a club that night, and so there's a lot of tension between them. But I think overall it's about like spending time like with the people you appreciate the most and realizing how much they mean to you. So like, even though you might not see Christmas trees around in the movie and it's set in California and it doesn't really cover Christmas much, I think it still kind of has the spirit of Christmas in it, because I think that's what the movie's about. Anyways, I do want to go on. I
enjoy the movie, but I always wondered why they decided to set it at Christmas, because they could have set it any time and it'd still be a good movie.
Because I still think it's about like the spirit of Christmas, because I think the relationship between those two characters becomes a lot stronger, and like who else would you want to be around on Christmas than the people who matter to you the most. But I will go into my real answer. That was just kind of like a quick mention, because that movie is really good and I think everyone should watch it. But this is a movie.
Writing these down. I hope people are writing these down.
I watched this because I went through a list of movies because I wanted to watch a couple new ones before I did this. And I watched this movie for the first time yesterday or the day before. I can't remember exactly, but it's called Go. And it's from 1999. It's directed by Doug Liman, who also directed Swingers and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Jumper, and most recently Edge of Tomorrow, and the sequel that's coming out soon.
He did one of the Bourne movies too, I think.
Yes, Bourne Identity, I believe.
The first one, I think.
It could be, but I don't know for sure. But obviously a pretty critically renowned director for sure. But this movie takes place on, I don't think it's Christmas Eve actually. It's just around Christmas time, and it's one of those movies that like something happens on the beginning and all the characters kind of go off and do their own thing, and then it follows each of their story. And the cast, like I'd say, the two main characters are played by or what I would consider the two main characters is played by a woman named Sarah Polley and a guy named Desmond Askew, who I don't really know, but the rest of the cast of this movie is amazing. It's from 1999, so like young Katie Holmes,
Yeah.
Tay Diggs, Breckin Meyer, James Duvall, Jay Moore, William Fichtner, who's like a character actor that if you saw his face, you know who he is. Like he's like that shotgun banker at the beginning of The Dark Knight. He's in it. Jane Krakowski, who plays Jenna in 30 Rock and also plays Betty Rubble in the second Flintstones movie, and I really like her, so I was excited to see her in this movie. And also a really young Melissa McCarthy is in this as well. And it's about, the initial story is about this woman who can't pay her rent, is getting evicted, and she works at this grocery store. So she covers a shift for her coworker, and her coworker's a drug dealer, and then these guys want to buy drugs for him, but he's not there, so she has to try and find drugs for these guys. And they go to a rave, and like the drug dealer guy goes to Las Vegas and goes to a strip club and gets in a fight, and then there's like a car chase, and then there's like the guys that asked her for drugs are actually like undercover working for the cops, and they're this gay couple and they're actors, and it kind of goes off into their relationship as well, and it kind of goes all over the place. And of course it's may not totally be a Christmas movie because it's not really about Christmas, but like the Christmas imagery is all around, like especially in the grocery store, like there's lots of decorations everywhere, and the cars that the main characters drive around in kind of looks like the inside of the taxi from Scrooge. Like there's all like tinsel and garland and lights, and it looks really beautiful, and the way it's directed is like so like 90s MTV, like lots of canted angles, and the set direction's really good. And there is some Christmas elements, like the movie opens with Katie Holmes talking about like life being like a Christmas present, and there's like jokes about New Year's plans and stuff like that in it. But I just watched it recently, and I liked it so much. Just the aesthetic was really good, and I just love that kind of like zany, weird like MTV style of film, and it's really good, and I really enjoyed it. And I've never heard anybody talk about it, so I just wanted to put that out there because I just think it's a great movie. And if you want to watch a great movie that's also a Christmas movie around Christmas time, that's good as well, I'd say.
I saw this in theaters, and I
nice.
owned it, I believe, on VHS. I did think it was a really great movie, and I haven't seen it in so long that I forgot that it had Christmas elements to it. So when you brought it up, I recognized it. Katie Holmes popped in my head, and Sarah Polsey? Yeah, I can't remember. But Holy. Yeah, no, I remember it. I really liked the movie. I liked the dynamic of all the different characters, but I totally forgot it was about Christmas. Did you see this one, Heather?
Doesn't sound familiar at all.
No.
It's so good.
And watch that again. I do remember I liked it, and I liked a lot of movies like that with ensembles back then, because you could tell how much music and MTV influenced, like music videos. And if I recall, that movie kind of had a feel like that. They tried different, like you said, the production and stuff like that. And also...
any movie from the 90s with Breckin Meyer in it as well, like I just love it. Like I don't know what it is about him in the 90s, like he just scored so many great roles. Like he's just so great, and I love seeing him in anything, and I don't even know where he went or if he's doing anything anymore, but I just love seeing him and stuff, and he's very ridiculous in this movie.
I think he does a lot of work with Robot Chicken, or I don't even know if that's
that would make sense, because
around.
Him and Seth Green are like best friends or whatever.
Well, it's not Christmassy at all, but Breckin Meyer, 54, that's what I have to say. One of my favorites. It's glittery. It's disco.
Yeah.
Okay, so check these out. I hope people are making a list or rewatching it, and then we get more views that way. Everybody loves this movie, but I don't. Oh my God, is it my turn?
Yep.
I think it is. I wouldn't say I hate this movie. I've seen it about 6 times. It's a Wonderful Life. I wouldn't say I hate this movie. I just don't relate to this movie. I'm not going to talk too much about it because people know it. And if you don't, watch my review on the Damien and Devlin show, because it was that time I watched it that I actually understood why I don't get this movie. I watch this a lot of times, every couple of years. I understand why people love this movie. And I get it, and I think it's wonderful that you do. But I've watched it, and I cry at anything. I watch Christmas commercials, and I can tear up. This one never touched my heart, except one time. Just after my dad passed away, I put it on, and I cried like a baby through it. So when I watched it for the Damien and Devlin show, I expected that I would feel the same way, and I didn't. I went right back to when I first saw it, and I came to the conclusion I don't relate to the lead character. I don't take things for granted, and I couldn't believe how pissy he gets. I can't believe we're talking about a classic like It's a Wonderful Life, and I'm using the word pissy. But I can't believe how pissy he gets when he has this wonderful family and everything, and I understand it's got to do what it's got to do, but he just goes to the idea of suicide a little too quickly in my eyes. And I just don't love it as much as everyone else. And in fact, if I never saw it again, I'd be okay with that. But I wouldn't say I hate it. I'd rather watch something else. But I respect that people love it. It's got issues, but I don't relate to this character, and apparently that means I relate to like Scrooge and the Grinch even more. But to me, it makes sense. Then just people show up with money and he's good again. To me, he's probably just going to jump on a bridge a couple of days later. That's horrible. That's why they never made a sequel to it. Luther, get me out of this. Tell me yours. Or what's your thoughts on It's a Wonderful Life?
I've never seen it. No, it's Jimmy Stewart, right? He's in it, right?
Jimmy Stewart, Frank Capra, who's like a great director, and
yeah.
I will watch it sometime. Movie I love, like imagery. It's a beautiful looking movie. Like there's so much in it that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's definitely one I've been wanting to watch for a while, and I love Jimmy Stewart.
I definitely this is one of those movies that I might not love, but I recommend it to other people because I think if you consider yourself a movie like entrepreneur or a fanatic, I think you definitely have to have it on your list of I better watch that at some point. Mm-hmm. I just think it's up there. Like you need to see it. Have you ever seen it, Corda?
I finally saw it a couple years ago. Finally.
Okay, your thoughts?
I loved it, but I agree I can't relate to the main character. But the part that really touched me was that everyone in the town noticed all the good things he was doing. I don't know why that touches me.
No, that's good.
But the fact that they acknowledge it when it's all just things he's just done because it's the right thing to do. And they all realize that he's this great person, like that he's been doing all these things and making sacrifices. And the fact that they notice touches me.
Something I have to say is that, because this wouldn't be Christmas without talking about mental health issues. And I'm dealing with a lot of that stuff right now with my therapy, is realizing how much I mean to people. But again, I still appreciate all the people in my life. So I don't relate, but I get that part of it. And yeah, it is. Yeah, I get it. So put that on your list, Luther. Check it out.
Yeah, it's been on there for a while. So.
All right. What's our next topic? We're getting near the end of our topics.
Oh,
we haven't even answered the last.
Yeah, you're just moving on.
Oh, did you? Oh, you didn't give one. Oh,
nobody did.
Oh, okay. No, I'm so opinionated about It's a Wonderful Life. Okay, Luther, please. What are you talking about? Everybody loves this movie, but I hate it.
Like I said earlier, and this is like kind of applies to like our past one that's similar to this one, and like I said, I think most Christmas movies are awesome. Like I I don't think that I dislike any of them, but one that I've noticed has been getting a lot of attention lately that I'm kind of like, really, is like a couple years ago that Netflix movie, A Christmas Chronicles came out, or The Christmas Chronicles with Kurt Russell playing
Kurt
Santa.
Russell in that? Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
and
never seen it, but I saw the trailer recently for the sequel.
yeah, I don't know, I watched it and I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, it wasn't great, like, but it's just like, I would probably put that in like the Hallmark, or like, I don't know, just like a kid's
Okay.
Christmas movie that was just kind of like, it was nice to, yeah, it passes the time, like you said before. But like, I think people have been putting it on like really good Christmas lists lately, and I'm kind of like, really? Like, I don't know.
I'm going to say, because it got a sequel, that people must love it. But yeah.
Yeah, and I also think it was just like probably the timing as well. Like, I think there's only been like one other Christmas movie on Netflix that they had done original at that point, and I wonder when it came out, Kurt Russell's really popular. Like, he was in that Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and I think his kind of like resurgence had kind of like peaked, and people were like, "Whoa, Kurt Russell is Santa." But like, other than seeing, because they shot most of it in Hamilton, other than seeing a lot of Hamilton in the movie, I wasn't like really, I don't think it really stuck with me that much. But that's all I have to really say about that.
Okay, Christmas Chronicles, that's a good choice. Corda, what's your
I'll preface this by saying I've only seen it once. I know everybody loves it. I'm not really a big fan of Home Alone.
Oh, no, I actually know a couple people who don't like it.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
I do.
I mean, like I said, I may like it more if I watch it again sometime, but I don't remember anything really good about it. So, and I know there's a tarantula in it, which doesn't help. So,
What didn't you like about it specifically? Because I'm just curious.
I don't know. It just, it's a lot of just slapstick humor and nothing that really appealed specifically. Like, maybe I don't remember it very well, in fact, but I don't know. It just doesn't do anything for me.
Well, my story, I saw it in theaters, and it was crowded. I remember it was very crowded. It was the first weekend, so there was no buzz on this yet. Like, because back then, you'd have some reviews in the newspaper, but it wasn't like you could go on your computer. And my first thought was I was freaking out because I'm not a fan of tarantulas. And when they say a tarantula is loose, all I could think of is, I am going to have to spend this whole movie avoiding the screen whenever there's a tarantula. And in this movie, it's all over the place. But you know what? I got through the movie, and I actually really loved it. And I've watched it many times before, even when I forget where the tarantula is, and I do quickly move away. But I do really like the movie. I actually really like Macaulay Culkin in it. I am going to say something really controversial here, and it's not just because of the tarantula. I actually like the second one better.
Oh, I like the second one.
By a touch.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because it's just a rehash, but I like the angle of him being in New York. But I actually like Home Alone a lot.
I think they had a lot of heart to it, actually.
I'd put both of them at the same level.
Yeah, I think that I do think they have a lot of heart. I did not have a problem with the violence. I liked that this kid was taking the initiative of saving his house. I like seeing the fact a kid actually respecting his house. I think they wrote how he gets forgotten. I think it makes sense. I know a lot of people said, well, no mother would leave their child behind, but I think they write it really well, like when she's doing the head count and she accidentally counts one twice. I buy into it. I think it's a nice film. I think you should give it another shot. I probably even would give the tarantula a high note because it's a positive view of tarantulas. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I still don't love them, but I don't want them to leave the earth. But he gives a good performance, and I like it. And I do like the second one just a touch more. I don't know why, and I refuse to watch any of the other ones because once Kevin McAllister leaves, I just think it's. I'm glad it was a big hit. Like it was a culturally huge movie when it came out. For the longest time, it was the highest grossing comedy of all time. And one of my favorite stories is, I can't remember where it was, but a place like India. Actually, they listed the top 10 baby names for that year, and you had all these Indian names. And I think at number 6 that year was Kevin. And people wondered why Kevin was in there, and it turned out it was because Home Alone was a huge hit there. And people started, Kevin became internationally popular name again. So I'm guessing you were a fan, Luther.
Yeah, I love anything John Hughes other than 16 Candles. I really hate that movie, but like everything he's ever written or
there's a
done.
future topic.
I watched that movie recently, 16 Candles. Not a Christmas movie, but I think that movie is atrocious. Like, I think that, which is funny because I do love like almost every John Hughes movie, other than like some of like, you know, Beethoven or 101 Dalmatians or whatever. But yeah. So I love Home Alone. I love Home Alone 2. And I'd be interested in like to watch it with you, Corda, and just like see what you don't like, because that's just like one of those movies.
Better than I remember, but I don't remember anything that I enjoyed about it, so I never watched it again. So
I don't want to give anything away because I don't know if it'll happen or not, but Home Alone will be featured something on Mondo Nostalgia. That's all I'm going to say. So we will be promoting it somehow in there, but that's it. Okay, so I'm not moving it. We're on to the next topic. Okay, sorry. I don't want to be controversial in everybody. Okay, this is our last one, and then we'll open it up. It's not a Christmas movie, but I love it around the holidays. And Luther, I believe you're up.
Okay.
It's a movie that you would watch around the holidays, but does not have a shred. Well, it might have a little, but it doesn't have to.
So this is my answer, and this has just become a new thing for me recently, and this is not a Christmas movie whatsoever, but last year I watched this movie around this time of year, and like whenever there starts to be snow is when I get really excited to watch this movie, and it's The Brood by David Cronenberg.
Never seen it.
It's from 1979. It has Art Hindle in it, who I haven't seen any of these movies, but he's also in Black Christmas and Porky's. Yeah. And the 1978 version of the Body Snatchers, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Samantha Eggar is in it. Oliver Reed and this kid named Cindy Hines that plays Candy or Candace. That there's her son. Have you seen it, Corda?
No, never. Don't think I've even heard of it.
No, that would be something I force her to watch. Trust me.
Yeah, so this is like, it's like an early Cronenberg film. I think I can't remember where it fits in the chronology, but it's like basically it's like kind of like a family drama, but obviously also a body horror film like you would expect from Cronenberg. But basically there's a couple, and from what I think I can remember, the mother like hurt the daughter, so she's in like not a mental institution, but kind of like a kind of like retreat, like a retreat to help you work through your issues and stuff like that. But the movie kind of introduces this retreat as almost like a cult, and the doctor who works at the retreat, what's his name again? I think it's Dr. Raglan, played by Oliver Reed, who is famously known for being drunk throughout most of the movie and being awful to work with. But he plays this like super weird, creepy doctor, and he has this method called psychoplasmics, and it's like this weird form of role playing, where kind of like he plays someone traumatic in your life and you kind of revert to this sort of like child state. But as it happens, your skin starts to break out in these like boils, and it kind of helps you process through it in some kind of way. I've probably seen this movie. I've probably seen this movie 5 times and still don't like fully understand it, but I love watching it.
I have to see this movie, but I have to know, why is this a Christmas movie?
Okay,
like, why
I'm getting to it.
Around this time? I'm
getting to it. So the wife is at this retreat, and she's kind of like the muse of this doctor, and she's going through like this I don't know, really big strides in psychoplasmics or whatever, but it takes place in winter. And the dad now has like the kid as the mom's away at this facility. And basically, as the mom is working through kind of like her traumas and figuring out like why she is the way she is, there are these little monsters wearing snowsuits, because the movie takes place in winter. So there are these little monsters in snowsuits that are killing people in their lives throughout the movie. And there's like lots of like, yeah, running through snow. There's like a cabin in the forest, well, like there's snow where these like monsters live, and lots of people running through snow, and those monsters are wearing snowsuits. And I think similar to like The Shining, it's just one of those movies that's so wintry. And so like when it gets cold, I just love watching it. And because it's Cronenberg, it's all in Toronto, and it just like, it feels very like, yeah, just like cold, and one of those movies that I just like to watch when I'm like inside during a snowstorm, because it just has that very like claustrophobic, like staying out away from the outside and just staying inside kind of feeling to it. And it's also just like really weird, like what I'm saying is really just like skimming the surface of what happens in this movie, because near the end, as you could probably expect from a Cronenberg movie, something really visually horrific happens. But it's just, yeah, really good movie. And I discovered it when I was in school. I wrote a paper about it because they were doing the Cronenberg retrospective at the Museum of Modern Art in Toronto. And yeah, I just saw some clips from this movie, and I had to write a paper on it and watched it. And it made me really excited. And I just love this movie. It's definitely my favorite movie that he's done. I think it would probably categorize it as my favorite horror film. And it's just, yeah, a movie I really like watching. And I stayed at a cottage around this time last year with Mariel, and we watched it together, and and it was her first time seeing it, and she really liked it. And it was just like perfect in a cottage during a snowstorm movie.
Nice. Yeah, I have to see this movie. It sounds very interesting. It actually, it's almost be cool to do a Boxing Day like movie marathon of non-Christmas movies, but still around the season, like The Brood, The Shining, Dead Snow, The Thing, you know, anything with snow in the background. But it sounds very interesting. And Cronenberg, I can always say that I never really get bored of when I watch a Cronenberg movie, because you just never know what's going to happen. I subjected you to a couple recently. Videodrome, Heather, and what's the other one we went? Scanners. And very interesting. Couldn't believe what we were seeing. All right, Cordy, you're up. I'll be shocked if I don't guess this one.
You know what I'm going to say, probably. Oliver.
It is Oliver. I was going to say Oliver, because I know I bug you about this one all the time. I go, guess what? It wasn't Oliver.
Yep.
All right, let us know all about Oliver. It's a Best Picture winning movie.
I don't know why I like watching it around there. There is nothing Christmassy in it at all.
Orphans. Orphans at Christmas.
My only guess is that they must always have shown it around Christmas time, so I just got used to watching it around Christmas time.
Well, some people probably consider it a feel-good film. You know, it's Oliver Twist, the musical. I do believe it won Best Picture.
I think so.
I have seen it. I'm not a big fan, but I will give this another chance at some point. I think I just went into it very negative. I know movie connoisseurs think it shouldn't have won the Best Picture that year, but I can see why you like it around this time. It's not like the greatest movie.
It's not even the greatest musical that I watch around this time, but for some reason it just seems Christmassy to me, even though there's no Christmas in it.
Oh, have you ever seen Oliver?
No, I've never. Well, obviously I know Oliver Twist. My childhood rendition of it is Oliver and Company, the Disney one with Billy Joel. But I'm not familiar with this version, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it was, I want to say 67, 68 or something. I do think it did win Best Picture. Yeah. But I know a couple people are like, really? Mine is an easy one. I'm not even going to talk about it that much. I'll let you guys talk about it if you want. I love it because it's like a big Christmas tree with gaudy ornaments and horrendous lights. Of course, I'm talking about Xanadu. I think Xanadu looks like Christmas in every step of the way. We just watched some scenes. We got a brand new TV And every time we get a brand new TV, we watch the floor show at the end. That's how we test our TV. And I'm happy to say it passed the test. But watching it, I just think it's so, I know both of you have seen it. And it's just so big, beautiful, colorful. It is Christmas without having anything Christmas in it. It's glittery, it's sparkly, it's a feel-good movie. You don't have to really even think about it. You just sit back, you're on autopilot, entertain me, people. Yeah, and I just get giddy with every musical number and stuff. So your thoughts on my Xanadu watching at the holiday season?
Xanadu is good every time of year.
Yeah. And I do remember Much Music actually showing it on Christmas Eve. I remember being at my family's house, and they always played some kind of rock musical. And one year they played Xanadu, and I said, "This is awesome!" But I didn't watch it because I was spending time with family. But it was on in the background. All right, let's open it up. Let's give some honorable mentions before we wrap things up. Luther, I know you probably have a couple. Any kind of movie that we haven't touched on, Christmas, non-Christmas? I know there's some we haven't talked about, but...
So I had just like a small list that I wanted to just fire off. Like I think there are some movies that just should get attention. Like I'd feel silly not bringing them up. But Gremlins is obviously a big one for me. Like I think that's a wonderful Christmas movie. Scrooged, though I think I don't like it as much as I used to. I still always watch it around this time of year, and I love it. I've been watching it most of my life for sure. I think it's really good, despite how I might feel about it now. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Jim Carrey version, I think is kind of underrated. I've only recently been hearing people say they don't like it, but I think it's incredible. I think the set designs, the costumes,
I'll tell you,
the mood of it.
When this movie came out, I've seen all these movies at theaters, and I agree with all of them. I actually think Gremlins is beautiful, some of the imagery in that. I have one big problem with Gremlins. I won't say what it is, because you've actually never seen Gremlins, have you?
No, you showed it to me last year or the year
before. Was it last year? Okay, I know you said you wanted to see it.
Yeah, you
and I have one big issue with it, but other than that, I think it's like the opening sequence with that little town and the little light snow coming down, I think it's like beautiful. And what I wanted to say, and I do enjoy Scrooged. I don't know if it ages well, but it is still funny. And it is a good adaptation of A Christmas Carol before everybody did it. When the Jim Carrey Grinch came out, everybody loved this movie. And then I noticed that people started turning on this movie. And I don't know what it was, because usually it's the other way around. People see it, and I don't know if I like it, like Christmas Vacation. And then years later, it's like, oh, we got to see that. You're hanging ornaments with, like, things about vacation on. But it seems the Jim Carrey Grinch worked the other way, because I remember people adored it, and now I hear a lot of people saying, oh, I hate that. I think it's still a really great movie. I think Ron Howard did an amazing job bringing the Who bill to life. I think Jim Carrey is absolutely hilarious in the movie. The scene where he's trying on clothes still gets me in tears, where he's just, ooh, I'm not wearing it. And stuff like that. And I love that the backstory was they actually, the dog that played Max was not a Hollywood dog. They actually got it from the pound and taught it because they wanted to do that. And that just touched me. But I think it's a great film still. So I just wanted to jump in there while you're doing it. So,
I think it's really, really good.
Backlash about it. Now, I haven't seen the new animated one, but I heard it is kind of like most of the new Christmas movies that come out, that he's not dark enough. So when he makes the change, like even in the TV special or the Jim Carrey one, you see he's actually like, "Grr." But I heard a lot of people say in the new one, he actually isn't that bad because they don't want kids to be frightened. Like, to me, that's scary because it takes away what the movie's trying to say.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
No, I haven't either. I'm kind of leery, but I always I have a feeling it's going to be one of those ones I pick up for $5 at Walmart one day. Okay, your list. Continue.
Yeah, and then we already brought up Christmas Story, but then I also had Silent Night, Deadly Night 1 and 2. Even I put them together just because they're basically the same movie. But other than all those, other than all of those, I did want to talk about one movie that I watched yesterday that I think is really good, and I think it's like a really, really good Christmas movie for this year specifically. And it's really good. It's called Tokyo Godfathers. It's an anime. It's like a Japanese animated film directed by Satoshi John, who also directed Paprika and Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress. And it's really, really, really good. This is a movie I've heard about for the past, I don't know, a few years as just being like one of the, on the top lists of best anime movies or whatever. But I only recently found out that it was a Christmas film. So I was like, oh, I'll watch that one before we do this show. And it's really good. It's about these three houseless people, like three homeless people. And it's like a teenage girl named Miyuki, and then a transgender woman named Hannah, but some of them call her Uncle Bag. And then there's another character named Jin that they also call Geezer. And it's like, I think it could be on I think it's on Christmas Eve. It takes place and it's snowing, and they find a baby in the garbage, and they don't really know what to do with it. But the character Hannah wants to keep it because she's talking about always wanting to be a mother, but she can't be because of physical limitations. And then they're like, no, you should give it to the police. But Jin is a character who kind of lost his family, and they kind of like come together as a group about this kid, and they're trying to find the family that it belongs to. And it's very much like they're living in tents in parks, and like, even though like you might think like, oh, it's scary to think of like a baby living with people who are living in tents, but like the way it's animated, their homes look very warm and cozy, and these people are so loving towards this kid and trying to figure out the best situation for it. And they kind of like traveling across I'm assuming Tokyo, yeah, because it's called Tokyo Godfathers, obviously. So they're in Tokyo, traveling around Tokyo, and like everyone is like, you shouldn't have that baby, and who are you, and just like making them feel horrible. And there's like just going through all these situations where they're like losing the milk for the baby, or they can't buy any more, or they're trying to go places and people don't like them because they smell bad. And like even the characters themselves don't really get along that well, but they really come together over this sort of common interest and kind of go through a lot of their past trauma about like childhood and family, and it's really, really, really good, and it's really funny, and it's really beautiful as well. The animation is incredible, and I just think if you haven't seen it, everyone should watch this movie, especially this year, just because there is a lot of like with the pandemic and everything, there is a lot of houseless issues right now, and I think people need to kind of have a lot of sympathy for people who could potentially die being out in the winter, because people are getting like mass evictions and have nowhere to be, and can't afford to, especially in Hamilton right now, can't afford to find new places, and don't have jobs because of the pandemic, and can't get a job or be like eligible to move into a new place. And I think it's just like, that movie kind of like, it makes you feel not great, but also like everything's going to be okay, even though everything's probably not going to be okay. Like, who knows how the situation's going to be handled. But I don't know, I really loved it, and I just wanted to bring up that movie because I think it's really beautiful and people should watch it.
No, that's awesome. It's always good to educate people. Corda, do you have any movies you want to shout out that we haven't talked about?
The only one I can think of is Rise of the Guardians.
Oh, nice, yes.
Technically takes place around Easter time, but it's so very Christmassy.
Santa's in it.
Yeah.
And Jack Frost is the main character.
And I love that movie. It's one of my very favorite movies.
I love it too. I don't know why this one doesn't get the love it does. It seems every animated movie gets these followings, and this movie, people just seem to hate on it. Except if you go online, there's a lot of cosplay of Jack Frost. Oh. People love the character Jack Frost. That was he's got a great look, and I think he was voiced by Chris Pine.
Yeah.
And have you ever seen Rise of the Guardians?
No.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's basically all these, the Easter Bunny, Santa, the Tooth Fairy, the Sandman, they all come together to face this thing that's going to destroy the world. And they all have to come together to save their individual holidays. And it does take place at Easter, but Jack Frost is the main character because he wants to join this group to help them, but he's a little bit too unpredictable and they don't want him. So definitely, if you're in the mood for an animation, give that one a shot. Any other ones?
You were close on the topic. He actually doesn't want to join them. They want him to join.
Oh, okay. I'm wrong. I haven't seen it in a while. So thank you for clearing me up. That's why we have you here. I have to give a couple of shout outs to movies, and I know Corda will agree with me on one of them. A couple of years ago, we watched The Apartment with Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine. Again, not an official Christmas movie, but a good chunk of the movie takes place on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. If you do not know this movie, Luther, please write this one down. I've
been meaning to watch this one for a long time.
Yeah, people have recommended it to me. I know some people who consider it their favorite movie of all time. I finally watched it and I said, wow, I could watch this at Christmas. There are some really dark themes. It's written by Billy Wilder, who's considered one of the greatest screenplay writers. And I know most of his more comedic work, and there is a lot of comedy in this, but there is a very serious tone in this, and be warned on that. But it is a good movie for this time. I doubt he watches this, but if Damien does, and I don't mention Die Hard, I'll get my ass kicked. And I'm going to say it right now, Die Hard does qualify as a Christmas movie. It takes place on Christmas Eve. It has the Christmas spirit. There's songs in it. It totally is. I also like a movie called Reindeer Games that nobody talks about with Ben Affleck and Charlize Theron and maybe Billy Bob Thornton again. I could be wrong. That's ringing a bell. I recently saw some older movies like Christmas in Connecticut, which is very old-fashioned, but if you like those old-fashioned kind of movies, definitely check it out. So many great ones. I think we covered quite a lot here. Christmas Carol, Alistair Sims. I know it's the go-to one, and a lot of people think it's outdated, but I like that it looks like it was filmed right back in that time. I still think it's my favorite Christmas Carol version, and look when you watch it, always look for that scene with the camera in the mirror, because everybody remembers that, because it's considered a classic, but a huge mistake in it. I don't know if they ever edited it out, but I hope they didn't, because that's what makes it fun. But anyhow, I had a great time talking Christmas with you too. Luther, we're definitely going to have you back, because we could talk movies like into the wee small hours of the morning. I hope you had a good time.
Always.
And I hope you got some.
Yeah, I definitely did. It's always great.
You definitely got me some things thinking, and even I may have to give Oliver another shot, and I'm definitely going to see the zombies and the musical thing. Anyhow, we can wrap it up now. What were you going to say?
I recommend the zombies before watching Oliver, really.
There's a weird musical double bill. I'm very looking forward to seeing The Brood. I don't know why. That out of the ones we talked
it's great.
And the Tokyo Godfathers sounds very unique too. Anyhow, if you watched this, thank you very much. We all had a great time, and I hope you took notes. And we gave you not only new recommendations for maybe Christmas movies you'll check out, but maybe to remind you, hey, I should see that one again. And maybe even if it was one you didn't love, maybe it's time to give it another shot or so. But anyhow, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, and we will be back next week with more of the Devlin Bishop Show. Thank you both for being here.
Goodbye.